Hello, welcome to the Dixie Belle YouTube channel. I'm Connie from Faff Designs. I'm one of your Dixie Belle brand ambassadors. In the video today, I am going to do a quick flip on these bedside tables for my daughter. Prep is always the first start to a piece of furniture. Luckily, these are in really good condition. So I cleaned them. I actually got Nancy to clean them. And then I scuff sanded them with my electric sander. I'm going to create a raised stencil or a 3D pattern on the front of these drawers. So I'm using the Morocco stencil and I'm just taping it down. And then I am using Dixie Mud in white with a Dixie Mud spatula just to apply a very thin layer of the mud through the stencil. So Dixie Mud is a paste that allows you to create raised effects, and it also allows you to fill in areas of damage on your piece. It comes in 3 colours, which is white, the one that I'm using, brown and black. And there's loads of different ways you can use Dixie Mud. I'm just showing you this technique, which is called a raised stencil. So I find a raised stencil a lot easier to do if I am working flat rather than it being vertical. So I have tilted the drawers on their back, and this stencil is a really decent size stencil, so it's going to allow me to do the raised stencil on all 3 drawers at the same time instead of having to lift the stencil in between each application of the mud. Once your stencil is secured flat, I just find it easier to work on a flat surface rather than vertical. You just need to apply a thin layer of the Dixie Mud through the stencil. Try and even it down as best you can, but you can always sand it once it's dry. And then I always remove the tape first, just so that you're not pulling against any resistance. And then what you need to do is remove the stencil, use both hands on either side of the stencil and pull it straight up in the air, and that's going to avoid smudging the wet Dixie Mud that you've just applied. I usually leave Dixie Mud to dry overnight and then it's sandable, so if you do have any areas that you just want to sand smooth, you can do that once it's completely dry. So the next step is for me to prime. Now, this is not always something that you need to do, but I'm doing it because I'm painting on pine, and pine is notorious for bleed through. Also, I wasn't sure at this stage what colour my daughter was going to choose, so I just decided to use the primer basically as an insurance policy, so that if she did choose a nice pale colour, then we weren't going to have any problems with bleed through. So I'm using Dixie Belle's Boss in grey, and this is a water-based primer and it stops bleed through issues. Once the primer's dry, I always like to give it a really light sand just to make sure it's super smooth. Just remember to give your piece a wipe down with a microfiber cloth to get rid of any dust on the surface, and then you're ready to paint. So after the extra stage of priming, it actually turns out that my daughter chose a colour from the Silk mineral paint range, which doesn't actually need a primer. And that's because Silk mineral paint has a primer built into it, which is equivalent to 1 coat of Boss. But I'd already primed this piece, so I went ahead and applied a coat of the colour Harbour from the Silk mineral paint line with a dry synthetic Dixie Belle brush. If you are looking for a fuss-free, easy peasy paint to use, if you want to just paint it and go, then Silk is absolutely the line for you. It's so easy to apply, it's self-leveling, it's got a built-in top coat, so you don't need to apply an extra top coat. You just paint it on. You can see how amazing the coverage is here. This is only 1 coat, but I did apply 2 in total, and you just leave it to dry and it's ready to go. So I would always use Silk if I wanted a 1 colour block finish on a piece. If I'm doing any special decorative effects, then I would probably use the chalk mineral paint line or the Terra clay paint line, depending on the effects that I wanted. But for a 1 colour finish, Silk is always my go-to. So this is the second coat going on now. Just ensure that your first coat has dried thoroughly before you do recoat, and that usually takes between 2 to 4 hours. Once the second coat was dry, I added some different handles in the existing holes, and then I got a really good close-up of the raised stencil so that you can see how the light hits it, and also a side shot as well, just so you can see how pretty it looks. I really hope you like this little video, and make sure you are subscribed to the Dixie Belle YouTube channel.